Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, Leveling Up Loyalty, Building Personalized Loyalty Programs for Success. I'm Bernadette Heyer, Managing Editor of Food on Demand. This is part of Food on Demand's Off-Premises University series, where we are releasing a handful of webinars, all tailored to different areas to help operators excel in their off-premises operations and reach their digital guests. So be sure to check out our website to see what we have released already, and make sure to sign up for the upcoming ones. Today's session will discuss how loyalty programs are more than just points, they're about personalization. We'll explore how to use data and insights to create programs and reward the right customers and fuel those increased and repeating visits. But first, I'm very honored to introduce our panelists today. If you both, or can all, introduce yourselves, a bit about your background, your current role, and your brand you're representing. Sharon, I'll start with you.
Sure. I'm Sharon Knight, and I am the Director of Marketing for Viva Chicken. We are a 15-unit Peruvian rotisserie chicken joint, and we are based out of the Carolinas. We have been around for a little over 15 years, and really excited just to keep growing within our market and expanding markets lately.
Great, thank you. Over to Brian.
Hello, Brian Buck. I am the IT Director of National Coney Island. We're based out of Michigan in the Metro Detroit area. We are a 14 location fast casual dining chain. We actually celebrated our 60th year of being in business this year, so it's been a big year for us. We specialize in our Coney dog, which is a chili dog with mustard and onions on it. We're also known for our honey sandwich, which is a crispy chicken wrap with lettuce, tomato, mayonnaise, and 2 cheeses on it. So we also do produce our own chili, both in the frozen and now canned, and we distribute across the United States now.
Great, thank you. Charles, over to you.
Hi, I'm Charles Gray. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Paytronix. Been working with Paytronix for the last 4 years in a couple different roles as Chief Revenue Officer and now Chief Product Officer. But I'm a restaurant industry vet. I started with being on the operations and IT side. So I have sat in Brian's shoes before at California Pizza Kitchen, at Einstein Bagels. And so spent a lot of years with different brands and with different vendors, and now most recently with Paytronix.
Great, thank you all very much. So diving into today's content, I want to start with customer engagement and loyalty onboarding. Brian, I'll swing the first question to you. Can you tell me about rolling out your loyalty program and what helped you get your team to kind of buy in?
Sure. I really think our program is successful today because of how we launched it 12 years ago with Paytronix. So we've had our Coney Bucks program for over 12 years now. We're going into our 13th year of it. But when we launched it, we had a strategy of really building excitement about the loyalty program, as well as not with just our guests, but also with our staff. And I really believe that helped us launch successfully. We did a instant win during the first month of launch. Whenever someone came in and signed up and swiped their card, they had a chance of winning either a food item or event tickets or amusement park tickets. So it was a lot of fun for guests, obviously, if they're winning prizes, but just as much fun for our staff because they were able to go back to the table and tell their guests that, hey, you won a prize. So we really did that. We've kept that momentum throughout the program by making it kind of competitive among our stores. So now that we've signed up guests, we've kept our staff engaged because now we encourage them to ask every time whether you're a Coney Bucks member. And it's become very competitive between stores of how many transactions tied to loyalty do they have. At the beginning, it was registrations, but now it's just keeping the guests engaged and making sure they're using the program.
Great, and we'll dive more into details in a little bit here. Sharon, over to you. I know that you relaunched your loyalty program with Paytronix. Can you kind of tell me about that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Very similar to what Brian was doing with his team. We really kind of got it down to our, cashiers, our front of the house team members, really dove into kind of bringing that culture for them to, really go ahead and get every single guest signed up. And then once we kind of got through our first year of signups and also transitioning from our old program to our new program, really kind of getting our guests fully engaged with rewards and competitions and things like that. And then on the same side, what Brian was doing with his team is really kind of getting, pitting our stores against each other. Like, who has the most swipes? Who's got the most loyalty signups this week? That really helped really snowball our program into what we have today, which is a really robust loyalty program that is constantly growing. And it's not something that, we have to now keep reminding our stores, hey, have you talked to your guests about signing up for loyalty? It is now ingrained in their culture as, every single guest that walks in, hey, are you a loyalty member? Oh, great. Let me get your phone number. Let's get you some points today. Or, hey, I see that you guys have a reward. Would you like to use it today? That is something that our guests have come to kind of, get from our team members, and they're super excited when they see a loyalty member, and especially like if we've got different statuses within our program, when we get to those lifetime members that come in and our red status members, which are pretty high tiered members, are getting excited. Oh, you're a red status, or, oh, you're so close, so it's really kind of fun to see our team take on the loyalty program with as much gusto as they have, kind of driving that program is something that we just kind of put out there. Now it's driving itself, and, we're seeing the rewards behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And over to Charles, from the Paytronix end, once we get these guests to sign up, it's important to have that frictionless experience. Can you kind of tell me about what the key is for that sign-up experience from your end?
I think, Brian and Sharon talked about it. It's the being a part of your everyday business. It's about everyone participating in it and having everyone included in the in that part of the customer journey. Encouraging customers to be part of the loyalty, explaining the benefits, the why behind it, but also the friendly competition between locations. As there's always a healthy, everyone wants to have the best sales or best customer ratings. There's a number of things that we all measure ourselves on in the restaurant industry, and no GM wants to be there during a business review and be toward the bottom of the list of any of the stats. And so making loyalty just as equally important to the other areas that you are looking at your business from a profitability perspective, from a cleanliness perspective, from a food quality perspective. If you treat it the same that you do all of those key features, I think that's part of the success and secret we see with our customers, and certainly Sharon and Brian and their brands exemplify that.
And now, talking about driving those repeat visits and kind of building a habit, among consumers. Charles, you mentioned to me in our prep that, the third visit is really a magic number. Can you tell me a bit about that and just, speaking about driving those repeat visits?
Yeah, so Brian mentioned we've been with him for 12 years, and that is he is not alone in that group. We have some folks a little bit longer and right around those ages, and obviously newer folks like Sharon joining us all the time. But the common thread that everyone has understood is it's really about driving consumer adoption, behavior, total customer value. And when you stop and you pull back, and when management of any brand really embraces the fact that loyalty is not a discount program, it is not a place where you have taken something from 20 years ago, if we would have thought about a punch card and somehow made that a conversion over to a modern take on that you've completely missed it. Right. The fact of the matter is that engaging those customers is so very important, because you want them to change their behavior. You want them to come more frequently. You want them to feel like they can come more frequently. You want them to buy more when they're there, recommend you to other people, right? Suggest all of those things. And so what we have found in the years of doing this, so we're coming up on our 25th anniversary. Right now, we have approximately 300 million unique records, which is almost the population of the United States. And so that means if you belong to one of our customers, if you belong to customer A or customer B, you're not counted twice in our database and our records. We count you as one. But when we think about that, we're dealing with hundreds of millions of people in billions of transactions. And so what we found looking at all of that data over these years is there's a tipping point around the third visit. And what we can see statistically speaking is that once someone has engaged your brand, now you have to think about your brand and how frequent a customer would visit, right? If you have a habitual product, if you are a morning coffee product, is a great example of a habitual product, right? Then you want to see probably a frequency that's measured in days in visits, right? You may be your concept is a little bit more oriented toward a particular day part, and so lunches are what drives you, and you have that. Again, you might be measuring it in days or number of days per week. You can take that out to then a more probably a more special experience. Maybe you're a steakhouse, or you're a place, a destination location where people think of for special occasions. Then that third visit may come in months, right, or quarters. It really doesn't matter the individual brand frequency as much as it does that tipping point of the third visit. That has really then given the individual a chance to experience your brand at well, in this case, 3 different occasions. But what it also does is they're probably going to be waited on by someone else. They're trying other food on your menu. They've gone through and maybe experienced it again, depending on your service, through the drive-through or at the counter. So you've now, as a guest, you've experienced the brand in a number of ways in that third visit. We then see people tipping onto being a more regular and maintaining their regularity. Whereas if we don't see that, you get a lot of first triers, right? So a lot of our brands, and this is very important, right? They want to incentivize sign up. So whether it's a launch fresh or a relaunch, you want to get people motivated. Then the key is to track it, because if they're just one and done, that's not going to help you. So yeah, we find that in the statistical analysis over the years, that third visit is a pretty magical event.
Yeah, and that really, reflects the importance of customer data. And speaking of that, Brian, over to you. What campaigns or tactics have you guys deployed that's helped maybe get that third visit or get repeat visits in? There's obviously several ways to reach out to consumers nowadays. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, and Charles really touched on that. And we are actually new into rolling out an exact campaign for that. They call it the nurture flow, right? Get them to that third visit, especially new guests. For us, we do have the advantage of a brand, and I'm proud to say that we often, if someone tries us, there's a good chance they're going to come back because they like what they had here. Or they want to try one of our other menu items. But for a new guest and new loyalty members, getting them to come back that third time, we realize is a key. And someone may register, they may have came with a friend one time and they sign up, but they don't come back again on their own. So, we'll send those tickler emails out to get them to do that. But we also do use a one-to-one campaign as well now. So if someone has come a few times, or like Charles said, they came a couple times, and maybe that third time it's like 30 days later, 60 days later, and their cadence kind of slows down, we actually send them out emails to kind of get that cadence back in rhythm, to get them to come more frequently by sending them offers, whether it be a reminder or an offer that's a little more rich to get them to come back in and then build that cadence back. So it's a combination of those two, I think, are most important for us.
Sharon, same question to you about tactics you're deploying to drive repeat visits.
Yeah, so we're also, we launched with the one-to-one win back probably pretty quickly out of the gate. For us, we knew that there was an importance to continuously drive guests back in to our restaurant to that third visit. We're also pretty lucky with our menu that our guests pretty much come back and they kind of order the same thing. So it's like, we don't get a lot of movement within our space. They might go from a quarter chicken to a half chicken, depending on how hungry they are. But for the most part, they're staying within the menu category that they're kind of used to. But, for us, it's, how do we get new visits from new loyalty members? And that was really the bigger reason why we chose Paytronix when we did relaunch with a new brand, is that we did see the value behind all of their different programs that we can, deploy along the way. And so we started with a very easy 30, 60-day win back that was pretty, set on timeline. And once we kind of got the data behind our guests and and how they interacted with our menu, we were able to basically employ now the AI driven 30, 60, 90-day win back, which, you as a guest, you might be every 2 weeks, but then you stop for 3 or 4 weeks. Well, you're kind of falling into that we've missed you kind of category, because they're not on their regular schedule, and maybe they went on vacation and we just, don't capture that data from them. But we do, kind of see like, how does that progression for each guest now becomes very particular to that one guest and how they interact with our brand, which is, really kind of awesome to see, where we've kind of come from that stagnant, 30, 60, 90, where we started with Paytronix, which was much better than what we had before. And then we also do, the nurture flow in kind of like, all right, we've got a new guest. How do we continuously drive them back in, and what offers are working? We've partnered with Paytronix Strategic or SNA team, and we're constantly monitoring, okay, which ones are working? How is it working? Is this one kind of falling off? Or guests not really, liking the verbiage on this email or that email? So we're able to, in real time, and not wait 6 to 8 months and say, okay, well, this isn't working. We're able to change it, make the impact, and see what that impact does for, that third visit.
Yeah, and Charles, from your end, what have you guys learned about message timing and cadence when it comes to outreach and the different avenues you can reach guests? That's kind of a loaded question, but.
So, I think this is where all of us being consumers is really important. Sometimes we forget that we are the customers of other brands. And when we look down at our phone, we may sometimes, in the period of our day, right, you have a lot of things going on. You look at maybe your personal inbox or your text messages, and you see a bunch of advertising there, and you get a bit frustrated with the brand, like, you're noise to me, you're clogging what I'm seeing. And in other cases, you're genuinely, oh, you hit me at the right time, right? And therefore, I'm going to listen to your message. So some of the things we've learned is that, tend to, depending again upon your brand, but there is a finite amount. People just don't want to hear from you every single day. There has to be a really compelling reason, and that's few and far between for brands. What you want to think about is what your message is targeting and the behavior you're trying to you get from the individual that you're. A great example I'll use is, I think we can always learn from each other's industries, but you look at the ways in which airlines are engaging all of us through their apps, and how they are getting messaging out in a way that may grab you based upon your previous behaviors. Some brands are better at that than others, just like everyone, but you can see the same thing happening in retail, right? When they are positioning items, and I have retailers that come into my inbox almost on a daily basis that I ignore. I've now moved them over. Or even worse, Apple has moved them over into my junk because they see the patterns. That's the really thing that sometimes people don't appreciate, is that it's not always in the control of the person sending the message or receiving the message. It's the carriers that are trying to be, quote unquote, smarter. And so they're looking for ways in which to try to make their users' lives better. And so you can find things. How many times have we all tried to do something where the individual says to you, oh, check your junk folder, right? It may have ended up there. That is, I think, the worst thing a marketing person could hear, right? Whoops, it didn't even make it to the individual. It ended in the junk. So frequency is part of that, right? So thinking about what's the most important way in which you want to engage them. We've done a couple of things, and both Sharon and Brian have talked about those things with, one-to-one win backs and talking through when people would come in. I use the example, there's a brand in the UK that I go to, but I go to London every quarter. And so I'm not going to visit them, but I signed up for their wireless. And now they're hitting me almost every week saying, why aren't you coming? Here's our specials. Well, I'm not going to come. I'm not going to visit, right? So I think it's really important. And that's what we try to build into the software. A couple of things. One is, well, what should you do for one-to-one win back? What will be the enticing thing? And we think about when someone takes action. So when you send out the email, best day of week is a concept that was developed over years, again, of just data analysis to say, I'm more likely to react to something on a Thursday afternoon. It's just how my schedule fits. And everyone on this call has a different day, different time of day. It could be multiple days at the same time of day, right? It's when you're most open to hearing that message. And so the way we measure that is if one of our brands has sent a message to an individual and then they action it, and we see that pattern of actioning it on a particular time frame, we then create that as the algorithm for that individual. The marketing team doesn't have to think about it or do anything about it. Just set up the fact that you want what's called best day. Now, certain things you want to send out all at once because it's a call to action. Mother's Day, right? Limited time events, things of that nature. But if you're in the course of your normal marketing, you do want to think, and that's sometimes we forget too, that we're consumers in our own right. And how do we react to the brands who are marketing to us?
Yeah, all great advice all around. And so moving into, beyond discounts, value and experience, Sharon, can you tell me a bit about what you guys have learned when it comes to value versus discounting, and, when you're reaching out to guests for those promos, some of those best tactics?
Yeah. So for us at Viva, we kind of stick with that rule of thumb. Either it's free or full price, So, when we send out an offer, we're typically trying to drive an actual kind of response to it. So, we like to do like a $5 award off of something, so instead of discounting or doing a BOGO, because what we don't want our guests to kind of get in the habit of is waiting for that BOGO or waiting for, that 10% off coupon. We want to actually here's tangible $5, come in and spend it. Yes, it is a discount for us, but it feels a little bit more of we're just giving you basically a $5 bill to kind of come in versus, trying to play the discount game with, our brand. That's really kind of been our biggest kind of forward movement with Paytronix, and the fact that we've segmented our loyalty base based upon what they order. So we specifically talk to our chicken people one way. We talk to our salad people one way. We offer, a $5 or $1 off of our Bruno's Big Chicken dinner on Thursdays, for our chicken people. So we specifically target, the guests based upon what they order. So it feels a little less like a blanket, hey, everybody's got a BOGO or 10% off or whatever that is. But it's more specific to that specific guest and how they react to it. So it feels a little bit more personal in our minds.
Yeah, Brian, same question to you about, creating value without over relying on discounts, or what your strategies are.
Yeah, and I would follow along with Sharon too. We've been that way with Paytronix and our rewards as well too, because it has to be enticing enough to get the customer to get there. Like a buy one, get one honey, although attractive offer, for a single person, there's no way they can eat 2 honeys. It's a very filling sandwich. So something like that, it just doesn't make sense. And then so by doing that, you're leaving out a population by doing that. The $5 off is a reward we do as well. We also do, I wouldn't call them so much discounting, but we entice guests to come in certain times. Like we often do, which we've seen results of driven business from it, is our happy hour time. 2 to 5 p.m. is usually a slow time in our restaurants. So we offer double points during those periods. And that we've seen, although it's not a obvious discount to anyone or free food, but our loyalty members who are using the program are saying, hey, I can get my points quite quicker and I can get to my reward quicker. And most of them want to get to that top reward there. Yeah, we prefer the free item, free beverage, free coffee. We've done like an exception where it was a buy one, get something. We wanted to drive some morning business for a while. So come in and order coffee. We were giving away a breakfast sandwich. That's just to get the people in there. Now the coffee is not very expensive for a guest, and the free breakfast sandwich is a great free item for them. So that was very well. We did that, I think about 5 or 6 years ago.
Charles, do you have any comment on this world of beyond discounts and thinking about value?
Yeah, I think there's we all experience it. So I'll use a personal experience, because I think this is, just an example. I've been flying airlines for 30 plus years, and recently I think Delta, frankly, did a really great job over the last year by giving Wi-Fi free. And what they did was said, you just have to be a member. You don't have to have status with them. You literally just have to identify yourself. So then Delta has your contact information to then later market to. Brilliant move. Shame on American Airlines. I just flew them to Chicago for the national show for convenience stores. And they asked me to pay $20 for Wi-Fi. To me, that's when you're thinking about how do you drive behavior and reward, right? I got something for being a Delta member. Again, if you have no status, it does not matter. You just are now marketable. Mm-hmm. American Airlines, I actually do have status with, and yet no change. Everybody gets the same thing. And so experience in that situation is a story I've now just told, and now hundreds of people, hopefully thousands, will hear that story. The same thing will happen, right, for National Coney Island, Viva Chicken, or any other brand, is someone is going to experience the wow factor and share it, or they're going to have the moment and share it. We hope there's more wow than But what I think is really important is a lot of people will focus the wow maybe on just their food and not think about what they could do with their food. And I know that sounds a little weird, but I think about this like, are you going to roll out a new menu item? Or are you going to do something special for the season? Why not give a sneak preview to folks, right? You didn't give them a discount. You just gave them something that people like, right? Everyone likes to be on the inside or in the know, so to speak. And that could bring them to maybe have another visit because, yeah, they were planning on being regular, but now you've just given them a reason because there's something they may not be able to get. This is not an old thing. It goes back to my childhood, and I think about it, right? Is I could not wait for that mint milkshake from McDonald's, right? It was like, oh my gosh, it's coming out, right? And for years they did the McRib the same way. Again, not the healthiest of things for you, but we all waited for it, right? Well, or a lot of us did. And my point to that is that it wasn't necessarily a discount as much as it was an experience. And now with modern loyalty and our approach to customers, you don't have to do that blanket advertising like what those examples that I just used. You can be more specific and targeted to your base based on their behaviors. And so I'd encourage to, and I believe both Brian and Sharon's brands do this, is look at the behavior of the customer and what they're buying. And I think Brian's in that suggestion of the coffee and breakfast sandwich. Look at their behavior. What do you want to do? And you don't have to have this generalized experience for them. But at the same time, the experience doesn't have to be a percentage off, $1 off, or a thing all the time. Yes, those are good programs to run, but that's the beauty of a multi approach to your loyalty program. A real quick side, and then I'll stop though, is when I was first in loyalty was before Paytronix with a different company. And I was selling on Cape Cod, and everyone said to me, "Oh, sorry, man, that's an awful territory to try to sell loyalty." And I said, "No, it's going to be great. I'm going to sell the heck out of it." And they said, "No, you're not. That's a tourist area of the world. Like people aren't going to buy that. They don't want to give stuff away." I said, "You're missing the point." So what did I do? I started in the resort towns, and I said, "You want to buy loyalty?" And they, again, no, I'm open from Memorial Day to Labor Day with a couple days. And I said, no, you're missing the point. You want the concierge at the hotel. You want the owner of the B&B you're staying at to recommend your location. So you give the loyalty to that person. So then when they come in and they say, "Dan sent me," you're going to have your cashier, your server, whoever, whatever your style of service is enter Dan's phone number. And that's the loyalty ID. And now Dan gets to benefit from your brand, get something off, maybe get free meals or preference on a VIP table because you're a waterfront restaurant. Mm-hmm. Their families will inevitably visit during the season. They want to show off that they know locals, right? Yeah. So you can think about different ways. It isn't always about what you think. Think about all the other people talking about your brand too. You can find brand ambassadors that are not always in your restaurant all the time, but may have a reason to talk it up.
And so talking about, bringing tech in and operations, Sharon, knowing you guys relaunched your loyalty program and brought that new tech in, I think a big part of that is what you both discussed, Brian and Sharon and Charles, about having your team know about the loyalty program, have them talk about it. That's really fundamental. But other than that, can you talk a bit about, what should be in place before adding more tech or adding new tech? What does that background kind of look like for stores?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got to start with, the general manager, the district manager, all operations has got to get behind that change. They've got to have either frustrations prior and you're trying to solve it, whether it's in the IT department, the marketing department, or any other department within a restaurant space. If operations is having an issue with something, and you can help solve it. So it's either, oh, this app is so clunky, our guests don't really know how to use it, or, it's not really rewarding like they want it to reward, or our guests aren't really kind of getting it. Our kids, our cashiers today are like, so bringing in something new has got to solve for operational frontline issues that they're hearing and they're experiencing, and they have to deal with. We get 1 or 2 guest complaints maybe a week on something, and we're like, we'll help solve it, right? But they're getting it every single day during their entire shift. If something is that, problematic, then we have to change it. And so, going back to the field is what we did with ours. Is before we even chose who we were going with, we kind of went back to the field and said, what do you want to see? And how do you want, or what's your favorite app, or, what loyalty programs are you with and why? And so we did a full kind of, from cashiers to our managers, to our general managers, to our director of operations, to our VPs, what do they like? And we kind of compiled that before we even went down the road of picking and choosing a new loyalty provider. And so then we had this, I think our VP of IT had this huge wish list. And so everybody that we talked to, we sent this out. Hey, look, this is our wish list. How much of this wish list can you do? And that was kind of where we started our conversations prior to even going down that launch. And I think you have to start, we're small enough, we're only 15 units. So it's not like we had to ask 150 stores, or, we were so small and nimble enough that we can kind of make that happen. But I think that's where they start, because now when we go back and we said, hey, we were launching a new loyalty program and it has this, this, and this. Well, it's solving for my issues, or, that's what I wanted, or, and so our cashiers are already behind the program before we even, hit the word, sign the agreement to move forward. So I think that's where you have to start if you are relaunching to a new program, is find out what's not working, and then find out what they want and what their friends want, or, what they're using. So.
And Brian, you've been with Paytronix for quite a while now, but any comment on how you keep up with making sure those needs are met as time continues to change every year when we think about the omni-channel reality?
Oh, absolutely. And Sharon made some really great points there. We are actually in the middle of preparing to relaunch our program under a new program. It's been the same program for 12 years. It's gotten a little richer because our menu price have gone up. The rewards have not changed. So we are giving away a little more. But the other thing we did realize with the program, as a side note, that we were leaving out some guests. We didn't have breakfast rewards, other than when they hit Coney Bucks, they could spend those dollars on breakfast, but we didn't have menu item breakfast rewards. So we are going to Bakeable Points program. But in preparing for that, what I've learned, obviously we knew we were going to be relaunching a new version of our app, updating our online ordering for the newest technology as well to support that, as well as our website to make it easier for guests to redeem their rewards, because now they'll have to redeem their rewards, whereas our prior program was an auto convert program. So that will be an adjustment for a guest. And we knew with that adjustment for guests, because now we probably have a good population of guests, I know for a fact we do, who don't log into their account very often or don't use the app, and they will. And we didn't want our frontline people being that tech support, kind of like Sharon said. They are going to get that, but we realize that we have to prepare them for this change properly. Number one, making sure the app is working 100%, that our guests can use it 100%, making sure the new rewards can be redeemed if they do an online order very easily, because it's going to be our stores that are get those first calls. It may not be our customer service person here at the office. They're going to be the secondary, but we wanted to prepare our stores like, okay, if a guest have an issue, how can we help them quickly, because they're trying to wait on other tables. We don't want a server at a table for 15 minutes trying to help a guest log into their app for the first time, or download and log into their app when they're just trying to redeem a reward to use that they just enjoyed at their store. So we're putting together like in-store cards for both the guests and for our staff that will point them in the right direction without having to spend a lot of time with our staff on the floors and not being that. And then if it does have to go to the second level and they can't log in, then we know to direct them directly to our customer service manager here at the office. So, and we are using some things as far as easing sign up, working with our point of sale vendor where they can sign up right on either a handheld really quick to sign up for new guests or check in. Our new handhelds with our point of sale vendor will allow them to scan the QR code in the app to be able to attach it to the check. So that's some other ways we're using technology, but we're very hypersensitive to our staff, because if we frustrate them with the change in the program, then they're not going to promote it like they have in the past. So it's kind of like that success we did when we launched it. Our success has to be at the same level when we relaunch it. And if that means it takes longer to push out a relaunch date, we're open to that as well. My CFO said to me today, no reason to rush it. Let's do it right.
Absolutely. Charles, any comment on that? We've talked about how tech should amplify operations and what might need to be in place before adding new or more tech.
Yeah, I think Brian is, without even, if people will not believe this, we did not rehearse this, that's exactly the right approach that Brian just mentioned, in my opinion, is that don't rush things and make sure everybody's ready. I've always felt that technology is nothing more than an amplifier for operations. And so oftentimes people go and see something wrong at the restaurant level and think tech will solve it. It actually makes it worse. So if you can imagine, if you have a good underlying operational flow, then technology will help you. And it's not just loyalty programs. Point of sale is the same way. Kitchen display systems, right? You can go down the list of things that can make things better, but you have to have that underpinning efficiency. So you think about brands that put think about let's use Chick-fil-A as an example. They are excellent at putting people through the drive-through. They can deploy people outside of their restaurant, go down the line and line bust. But if they just line busted and everyone was then 30 cars deep waiting for the sandwich, wouldn't work, right? The deployment of the technology for those line busters is predicated on the fact that the kitchen can get out the product in the time that it needs to. And so I think about the same experience with loyalty or any operational flow. What Brian just said there is everyone's bought in. If everyone's bought in and they're going to use it, you'll have a successful launch. It's when you don't have those folks bought in. And so sometimes you have to do crew incentives. Sometimes you want to do competitions or contests amongst the crew in a particular location, or as we mentioned earlier, location against location for bragging rights or some small prizes. But it certainly is important that, everyone does believe that it's what makes part of the success or is part of why people come back to your brand.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to briefly touch quickly on when we think about third-party delivery and our other avenues of online ordering, many touch points consumers reach brands nowadays. Maybe starting with Sharon, what have you found to stay consistent with your loyalty across those channels, kind of meeting consumers where they might be ordering, how that might look different if they say they come to your first-party app or website versus maybe ordering through a DoorDash or Uber Eats?
Yeah. So, when we relaunched with a new app, that was one of our major criteria of we wanted it to seem like the guest didn't have to leave the experience of being at Viva, whether it's through the app or online ordering. And they kind of got it all through the same feeling. They were able to see the menu the exact same way, which is really, important for a guest who might be ordering one day dine in, one day, pick up, and then one day, I'm just going to have this delivered. But they want to be able to find their item in the same exact spot, in their app, or if they order online, they don't want to see it change, and so, our loyalty guests kind of really brought into that full omni-channel, but they can get the Viva however they want, whether it's, hey, I'm just going to pick it up for the family, or I'm going to order delivery. It's exactly the same feeling, when it's going through. And so that was a really important part for us in picking our new loyalty program, is to make sure that it's felt seamless, and that the guests can also not only, get everything, but also earn rewards, redeem rewards. And also, if any offers or promotions that are put out there, it flows all through there without any kind of clunkiness that you could get through other apps.
Any comment on that, Brian or Charles?
I would say, so we use Paytronix for our online ordering. It makes it very seamless, especially for our store operations. But Sharon made some good points that I never even thought of. During the same time of revamping our program and our app and the online ordering, updating that, we also did update our website. In the past, our website, when you went there, you could get to our locations easy. You can get to online ordering easy. But if you just wanted to browse our menu without having to go online ordering, it was, especially from a mobile phone, it was a PDF of our menu, right? So it was not, sure, it looks like in the store, but trying to read that in a mobile phone, it's just no good. So we actually partnered with a vendor who integrates with our point of sale. It pulls all of our menu items into our website with our current pricing, with descriptions, even with allergen information. And right from within that, they could click the order button. It seamlessly takes them into online ordering. So that experience, and Sharon, thanks for pointing that out. I never even thought that was an added benefit for us, but from a customer view, I think it's made it easier. We actually, when we launched this new site, they give us a lot of analytics, and it was amazing to see the customer engagement on the new site compared to our old one that I would use Google Analytics to look at page-wise. And it does allow them to interact with the items as well. They could actually write a review or favorite an item on the website, and it's going to remember them. But the seamless of taking them into our online ordering, and now to Paytronix benefit with the newest version of the app, whether you're ordering online from your web browser or from your mobile phone, it feels like the same site. All the menu items are in the same place, as well as you can even save your favorite orders too. I know when I reorder for the office, I use our own online ordering and go pick up at one of our stores. It remembers my last few orders, so I can say, yeah, just reorder that.
Yeah, I would just comment that these are great examples of thinking about, you'd asked at the beginning, Bernadette, about identifiable information and the journey and the flow. And I think that it's really important. I think all brands recognize the value of first party data. And so as we think about it as an industry, there are a lot of opportunities to partner with a lot of different companies. And whether you want to pick an individual company to have that journey with from end to end, if that's possible, like we do with Brian, and have that experience, or like with Sharon, where we partner with Olo to have that shared experience. The important part is that your partners talk to each other. And I would say even more importantly is that everyone respect the fact that it's their data, not the vendor's data or the partner's data, however you want to refer to us, the supplier's data. But the reality is it's the brand data. And so I think that's so very important for everyone to remember about making sure that the brand is truly the most important thing, and that we're here to support the brand. And again, whether that's in multiple places or a singular place in the experience of the guest, at the end of this, Sharon, Brian, everyone like them, they need to know who's shopping, what they're buying, how frequently they're coming, how to engage them. And what the worst possible thing could be is that they have a blind spot. Mm-hmm. And so when we think about this, we have spent, as I mentioned, coming up almost on 25 years as a brand, doing really cool things with loyalty. We are going to be rolling out in the next 3 months a view that extends beyond loyalty into a broader CDP environment where we're going to be bringing in additional data from the partnerships we have today, 500 partners and growing, where we help that guest experience in that journey. And so I think it's really important when we think through, at the end of this, it's all about the brand and what the folks who are supporting the brand can do with that data. And there's nothing more valuable, right, than knowing who's coming, when they're coming, what they're buying.
Right.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much. We're coming up on our time, but I'd like to end with maybe just a few pointers from each of you, a few takeaways that kind of stuck out to you in our conversation today for the audience to think about. Sharon, do you mind kicking us off?
Sure. I think if you are considering, a relaunch of your app or, looking for a new partner, ask your teams, ask what they want. You're going to get that buy-in, build that buy-in from the beginning and, really kind of get operations behind the whole program, because at the end of the day, gaining more loyalty members is going to be your key to continuously driving your program and increasing your sales. And also, I think at the end of the day, figuring out where you can, to Charles's point earlier, where you can find new loyalty members that might not be, the typical person.
Great, thank you. Over to you, Brian.
Yeah, great pointers. I mean, I second those. My only add would be, when you're picking the technology to pair with your loyalty program, be sure to test it out. Get your staff to test it out. Make sure management has full buy-in in it, because you're going to want the support with that program. And then one thing we mentioned, or I think Charles talked about, is in messaging too, that I wanted to follow up on was we kind of, at the beginning of our loyalty program, we were very hesitant about how much email, we didn't want to do that to our guests, like blast them with emails all the time. So we didn't stress the importance to our staff on that early in the program. So when people signed up, we didn't require emails, which now looking back and now that our program's changing, that will be a challenge. But over the 12 years, we've learned what the good email practice is. So if you find that good balance of not over messaging, but messaging for the right reason, if you want them to come back or you don't want them to miss an offer, that's when guests are going to open your emails, not when you over email them. So don't be too cautious about it, because, and like we do have a bunch of rewards guests with no email that we're going to have to, if they're still coming to us, we're going to have to get their emails so that they can get the messaging. But yeah, find that good balance with the email.
Great. Charles.
I was just I'm gonna plug both of them. So I was gonna say, if you're in the Carolinas and you want really good chicken, you're gonna go to Viva Chicken. And if you want one of the best Coney dogs you've ever had in Michigan, you're gonna go to Brian. And I don't say that lightly, because I think that is the takeaway I have. Have a really good product, right? Have a really good execution and a great experience. Technology will help you. Goes back to my earlier point. You've got two really amazing brands on the conversation today who've done really well by their customers, who then trust them. Adding loyalty, you could use any analogy, as the whipped cream or the cherry on the sundae. They've done a great job of building a foundation. Now they can just really take it to its next level.
Great. Well, thank you all so much, Sharon, Charles, and Brian. I really appreciate your time. And for everyone listening at home, I hope this webinar was valuable for you. And thanks for tuning in.